Imagine getting tortured by spiders, locked in a coffin, and buried alive. Now, imagine signing up for that. Hi again. Welcome back to Plain English, the best podcast for learning English. I'm Jeff, and JR is the producer. This is episode 210. And you can find the full transcript of this program at plainenglish.com/210. I know a lot of you listen right before bed. If you're one of those people, continue at your own risk. This episode could give you nightmares. So many listeners ask me to do an episode about Halloween. Now, I don't really do anything for Halloween anymore, and I don't get excited about the topic, but I thought before too much time passes after October 31st, we could talk about the world's most extreme haunted house and the people who want to shut it down. So that's today. The expression is to get yourself into something, and we have a quote of the week, an uplifting one, nothing to do with the haunted house. Now, before we jump into the haunted house, I wanted to ask, are you part of our email program? If not, then you'll want to head to plainenglish.com/mail, M-A-I-L, and sign up. Twice a week, JR sends out additional episode resources to thousands of your fellow listeners. The emails have a summary of the episode, links to English articles about the main topic, and an explanation of another English word or phrase. So make sure to get all those free resources by signing up at plainenglish.com/mail. Walking blindfolded through a dark passage, a terrified man feels his way around to safety. And just when he thinks he's safe, two people throw him into a coffin and shut the lid. After laying there for what seems like hours, he's dragged through a muddy trench and buried alive. No, this isn't an excerpt from a new Saw movie. This is McKamey Manor, a scary thriller attraction, the world's most extreme haunted house. There are people who like to be scared, and then there are people who like to be absolutely terrified. McKamey Manor, located in Summertown, Tennessee, about an hour from Nashville, is not your typical haunted house. Actually, it's not exactly a haunted house at all. It's better described as an experience designed to take you through an extreme and torturous obstacle course to mentally and physically push you to your limits. This place, which is open year-round, is so scary that the owner, Russ McKamey, requires everyone who is interested in going through the experience to pass a background check and complete a physical and mental exam, among other screening requirements. Participants also need to be 21 years old or 18 with parental permission, and they must watch prior participants' recorded experiences to understand what they are really getting themselves into. and the videos don't sugarcoat it. On top of all these requirements, the most eyebrow-raising of them all is a 40-page waiver. A waiver is a legal document you sign saying that if anything happens to you, the other party isn't responsible. It's a way of disclosing in writing that you are taking responsibility for yourself. The waiver at McKamey Manor can include such things as having your teeth pulled, being locked in a coffin, and getting your fingernails pulled out. But the most harrowing detail in the waiver, the chance of death. You are literally acknowledging in a legal contract that you could die at this haunted house. Now, with requirements like these, it's no surprise that so many people don't even make it past the waiver. And who could blame them? So how much do you think people pony up for an experience like this? Considering the lengthy process to enter and the extensive thought that goes into personalizing the course according to your specific fears, you would think there might be a hefty entrance fee. However, the owner merely suggests a donation. In fact, the donation doesn't even have to be in money. For a while, he was accepting free pet food as his compensation for running this haunted house. Now, the participants who make it past the waiver and donate some dog food will then move on to the course. During the initial screening, participants have provided personal information about themselves, which is used against them to create a custom course that intensifies their terror. If you're scared of spiders, you're getting an arachnophobe's ultimate nightmare. If you're scared of clowns, then you can bet there'll be a few of Pennywise's close cousins in the course. The course itself can last up to 10 hours, and the owner says he even uses some forms of hypnotism to get into the minds of the participants to make them believe that some experiences are real. Now, the course is staffed by volunteers, and they are allowed to touch the participants. Probably not gentle touching, if I had to guess. Unlike most haunted houses where touching is typically not allowed, participants go through a series of torturous events that can include eating insects, being locked in a coffin, as I mentioned, being buried in dirt, and being attacked with weapons like tasers and paintballs. And all of this is recorded, and the footage shows up in a private Facebook page for the participants' friends to watch. Some contestants wind up sobbing, shaking uncontrollably, and soaking wet. The course can get so intense that one participant even had a heart attack during the experience. In the past, McKamey has had the police show up to reports of disturbances. He now calls the local authorities ahead of time before each customer. That's how intense these courses can get. The police get advance notice of each customer that goes through the course, maybe in case they hear a lot of screaming. So who in their right mind would subject themselves to this kind of torture? Apparently, there are a lot of people looking for this kind of stimulation. There is a long waiting list of people from all over the United States and beyond who are waiting to be physically and psychologically tortured at the McKamey Manor. These are people who are looking for an adrenaline rush, and they are extremists drawn to these types of experiences. One person said he's jumped out of airplanes so much he doesn't get an adrenaline rush from that anymore. Despite the popularity, however, McKamey Manor is not without some controversy. Many people believe the manor goes way too far. They feel that the course puts the safety of the participants in jeopardy. Yeah, no kidding. Both in their physical and mental state even after the course ends. Previous participants have complained about their health after completing part of the course. I'm shaking my head. There's even a 62,000 signature petition to shut it down. The local community has also not been pleased with the place, with many vocal opponents having expressed their displeasure. The owner, however, brushes off the controversy and says it's all for entertainment. He says people still want to sign up for it regardless. Plus, one of the biggest draws that entices thrill seekers to McKamey Manor is the $20,000 reward for anyone who successfully completes the entire course without quitting. The problem, however, is not a single person has made it all the way through. I don't know. This is not for me, that's for sure. But I'm also not signing the petition to shut it down. The participants know what the experience is. They sign a 40-page waiver. They watch videos. They know what's coming their way. If you don't want the extreme fear, the extreme stimulation, then don't do this course. It's not for me, but it is kind of funny that it exists. There is a place in the world for everyone, that's for sure. My place is far away from this haunted house. Now, how about the guy who doesn't get an adrenaline rush from jumping out of an airplane anymore? Now, on this, I know what he means. I used to be terrified of roller coasters. I used to think I was going to die right there in that second or two when the roller coaster stops its incline right before you go speeding down. I used to be so scared of that. And nowadays, roller coasters just give me a headache. Maybe that's what that guy thinks, jumping out of airplanes. What am I getting myself into? How many times have I asked myself that? What situation am I putting myself in here? We usually say, get yourself into when we're talking about a surprising or difficult situation. Something that's overwhelming, something that's more than you thought originally. You've got to imagine that the contestants at McKamey Manor think this over and over as they go through the course. Sure, the waiver gives them some idea of what they're getting themselves into. And yes, the videos of past contestants suffering, that also gives them an idea of what they're getting themselves into. But can you ever really know what it's like to be buried alive before it happens to you? I don't think so. They might not admit it, but I bet as the coffin slams shut, more than one contestant is wondering, what am I getting myself into? Now that is an extreme example, but you can use it in a variety of ways. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I agreed to host a Thanksgiving dinner. That means you're looking backward in the past, saying, back when I agreed to host the big meal, back then, I had no idea how difficult it would be. I had no idea how many things I had to cook at the same time. I had no idea how hard it was going to be to find enough plates and serving dishes. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I didn't know the difficult and complicated situation that I was putting myself in. Many of you know that I work in business consulting, and in consulting, we do projects for clients. And sometimes when we sign up to do a project, we know exactly what we're getting into. We've done things like that so many times, it just won't be a surprise when we start the job. But other times, we don't know exactly what we're getting ourselves into. We try our best to guess. We ask questions, we look at prior examples, but there are times where it's impossible to know exactly what we're getting ourselves into. We just have to do our best when the project starts. Before I started this podcast about 2 years ago, I spent a long time thinking about the time commitment, the complexity, how I was going to fit this into my schedule. Would I really be able to be at home every weekend to record the program? 52 weeks a year, no exceptions. What would I do if I wanted to be away for a weekend? I made sure that I knew what I was getting into before I started. Now, a lot of podcasters make the mistake of not thinking this through. They just start and then realize how much work it is, and they give up. They don't really know what they're getting themselves into until they've already started. That's why so many podcasts have 7 episodes. So when you see one that's a few hundred or even 1,000 episodes, like some out there, that's a sign that the people behind it knew what they were getting into beforehand, and they planned out their commitment. Here's a quote I heard on a business podcast that I listened to, and I've been thinking about lifestyle a lot and creating a life and a routine that I want for myself. And that's a topic for another day. But I was listening to this podcast of entrepreneurs who were saying how they plan their days, what they do in the morning to get their days off to a good start. And the host opened up with a quote that I thought framed the issue really well. Here's the quote. Would you ever wait to tune your violin until after the symphony is over. And the purpose here is to say that we often jump into our days, jump into our work before getting fully ready and fully prepared mentally, before making sure we're ready for the challenges of the day. Now, the message in this podcast episode I heard was that we all have obligations in the world to our families, to our jobs, to our businesses, if we have one, but we often neglect taking care of ourselves and preparing ourselves to deliver our best to the people and organizations in our lives. So the message was to tune your violin, to take care of yourself, prepare yourself mentally for what's to come. Do all that first, and then start the symphony, then start the craziness of your day after that. I start my day by looking at emails, work emails, plain English emails, personal emails, and notifications, and I'm thinking about my calendar and my schedule and calls all during breakfast. And I often find myself neglecting what I need to get ready and do my best because I'm so anxious to start. So I'm taking that quote as advice, and I'm going to try to tune my violin to prepare myself mentally before jumping into the craziness of each day. Here, I'll read it again. Would you ever wait to tune your violin until after the symphony is over? It's a good quote. So I'd love to know what you think about all this. If you have anything you do to level set, to get yourself off to a good start in the day, let me know. If you have any ideas, leave them in the comments section at plainenglish.com/210. That's all for today. I hope you listened to this one in the morning, not at night. Hopefully no nightmares in the world of plain English. We'll be right back here for the next episode on Thanksgiving Day in America, November 28th. See you then. If you can understand this program, then you might be ready to speed things up a little with Plain English Plus. As a member of Plain English Plus, you can listen to a fast version of this very program. A lot of members listen to both. They listen to the slow version first to understand the topic. Then they listen to the fast version to see how it sounds at full speed. I know some of you speed up the program on your podcast player, but if you're really serious about improving your listening, there's no substitute for the full speed version. And of course, you always have the transcripts available, and the Plus transcripts include our instant translations into 7 languages. So what are you waiting for? If you'd like to speed things up, come join us at plainenglish.com/plus.